The United States has won the total medal count in every Summer Games since 1996. For 25 years, America has dominated across the board, with the 2016 Summer Games netting Americans 121 medals, far leading second-place China, who only got 70. In 2021, the United States is once again expected to destroy their competition, with superstars leading the way like Simone Biles, Katie Ledecky, Caleb Dressel, and Serena Williams. So why am I making a video about this? Well, actually there's a small problem. While you, me, your grandmother, and her 6 cats will be watching, there's evidence a lot of Americans just won't be interested. To find out why, let's back it up. The first telecast of the Olympics on American television was the Winter Olympics in 1960. CBS broadcasted the games and they had huge appeal. Just in that first year, there was a moment in which officials asked television producer Tony Verna to replay film of a skiing event to determine if a skier missed one of their gates. 3 years later, Tony improved this replay video system and is credited with inventing instant replay. In 1964, ABC won the broadcasting rights for the Summer Olympics and would keep them for over 2 decades. While NBC did gain the rights for the 1968 Winter Olympics, they would have to wait until 1980 to broadcast them again. Starting in 1972, the Olympics were officially broadcasted in full color, and with that, ratings picked up drastically. It was here that the Olympics were becoming a primetime television staple. In the heat of the Cold War, the United States was in a tightly contested battle with the USSR for medal count. And the USA could not get the best of the Soviet Union most of the time. 7 out of the 9 Summer Olympics between 1960 and 1992 were won by the Soviet Union, with the United States coming in second and even third to East Germany several times. Many of the most historic performances in Olympic history we associate with this era of fierce competition. The 1980 Miracle on Ice, Tommy Smith and John Carlos at the 1968 Games, and a personal favorite, Greg Lujanus in 1988. This guy did a preliminary dive where his head clipped the diving board as he was doing 2.5 somersaults. He then rested for 35 minutes, came back, qualified for the finals, and proceeded to win the gold medal. His dive to win it all was the same dive he injured himself with before, known today as the Dive of Death. These heroic tales of underdog Americans winning gold were huge stories, and the public loved the drama. Ratings were going up, and in 1992, NBC made a $401 million bid for the rights to broadcast the Summer Olympic Games exclusively. However, they were about to make a massive mistake for those Summer Olympics, known as the triple cast. NBC partnered up with Cablevision in 1992, to produce what turned out to be one of the biggest financial television failures of the 1990s. The idea was to charge US viewers $125 to see Olympic events live, 24/7, which would be broadcasted on 3 channels. The white channel featuring individual sports, the blue channel had swimming events, and the red channel showed team sports. This was the year of the Dream Team, where USA Basketball allowed professionals to play in the Olympics for the very first time. Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Christian Laettner. NBC was confident of their estimates that 2 million people would pay for the coverage, but people were just not interested in watching it for that price point. Time magazine wrote an article that year titled "Television, How Much is Too Much?", saying the TV issue posed by the 92 games is not the coverage's quality, the issue is quantity. Early reports of slow sales inspired a torrent of press stories that a financial disaster was looming for NBC. Time magazine was right. When it all ended, only 125,000 homes signed up for the pay-per-view coverage. NBC's estimate before the games was 2 million, so that's an estimated 95% miss. And NBC lost approximately $30 to $40 million on their Olympic investment that year. This was the first telling sign of Americans losing interest in watching the Olympics. And also a horrible misstep by network television, thinking the Olympics would be so sought by the public, they would pay $125 to watch it. And yet, athletically, the next Summer Games are where Americans' dominant run began. In 1996, with the Soviet Union out of the picture, the United States won 101 medals, 44 of them gold. Russia in second had 63. This trend would continue until today. 93 to 89, 101 to 63, 112 to 100, 104 to 91, and in Rio, 121 medals to 70. So with all of this winning, Americans you'd think would be excited to watch their athletes dominate. But the numbers say otherwise. In 2000, NBC paid a handsome $3.5 billion to secure broadcasting rights for the decade, and then paid a further $6.6 billion to broadcast it exclusively ever since. Over $10 billion later, NBC is now what everyone deems to be the Olympic go-to for the United States. And ratings-wise, the Olympics are still a major juggernaut when compared to other primetime TV vehicles. In Rio, the opening ceremony's viewership was 27.5 million across all platforms. Compare that to the 3.5 million that watched popular shows like The Bachelorette, perhaps it's worth the investment. But what is bothersome for the Olympics are ratings dropping since Olympic years past. In 2000 and 2004, ratings were notably low for NBC's coverage of the Summer Olympics. Viewership in 1996 was up to 40 million, and by 2004 it dropped to a mere 25.4 million. It was a massive blow to NBC's sports credibility, with other major sporting events trouncing them. Fox beating them with the World Series at 29 million, and CBS crushing them with the Super Bowl at 90 million. The major remedy for NBC were the London Games in 2012, where ratings skyrocketed back to 40 million. These games were star-studded. The storylines were electric. It just had everything going for it. But then in 2016, reality hit. The Rio Games ratings tanked, a drop from 40 million to 27.5 million. Compared to Beijing in 2008, ratings dropped for 16 of 17 Olympic primetime nights. NBC proclaimed it a major success, but the media across the board saw through it. In a Gallup poll conducted across 2 decades, Americans were asked if they planned to watch the Winter Games, and from 2002 to 2018, the percentages dropped dramatically. Across a 16-year period, Americans saying they will watch a fair amount of the Olympics dropped from 58% to 39%. For the Summer Olympics, 2016 was the first year a majority of Americans said they planned to watch not much to none at all, the highest disinterest in the Olympics since the poll began in 2000. In Slate.com's article, Do Americans Still Care About the Olympics?, writer Justin Peters says, "But there is perhaps a case to be made that our inevitable march to Olympic glory has drained the event of drama and poetry that have traditionally made it exciting to watch. Overwhelming victory has become the norm. The U.S. women's basketball team hasn't lost a game at the Olympics since 1992. They could barely get a mention on the primetime broadcasts this year." A Wall Street Journal story about the declining ratings at the games got a quote from major ad buyer Danny Benowitz. "The days of the ratings bonanza are over." These quotes make an interesting point. Winning so much so often lacks drama and appeal. A great example could easily be made of the New York Yankees in the 1990s, where they won 4 World Series in 5 years. In the first World Series, Game 1 had 25.2 million viewers, but by their 4th World Series in 2000, Game 1 only netted 18 million, a 28% drop. It could also be seen that it is not America's fault for being too good, but rather nations' faults for not being good enough, especially in contests where Americans have dominated for so long. In 2016, it was widely expected American gymnastics and swimmers would sweep the Summer Games, and, well, they did. Events featuring Katie Ledecky, Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, and others were not really competitions as much as they were coronations. Many of the superstars people want to watch are just too dominant, and the competition is not something many want to see live. In addition, many of the athletes that are in an intense competition are usually overlooked by those superstars that dominate. And lastly, the competitions in which Americans have a long shot of winning, like table tennis and badminton, are just never featured at all. The combination creates a competitive angle that many see as unwatchable, as polls and data suggests. The era of the United States underdog story is over. Now, in a new era of American dominance, NBC has to find a way to get people interested in the Olympics again, regardless of where it is and who is in it. This major task is above my pay grade, but one thing is for sure, After spending $10 billion to obtain the rights, NBC will do everything in their power to make the Olympics the powerhouse it once was. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe to keep up to date with our latest content.